Sup guys, I'm Kel, Red Zone Rogue, and welcome to another Force of Will strategy video. Keep in mind that these strategy videos are not deck techs, but are instead strategy videos with the intent of inspiring you guys to go out and make your own dank builds. But in case you don't care about any of that crap, there is a deck list in the description down below. So the strategy for today is going to be much more of a rogue strategy than what I normally do, despite the name of the channel being Red Zone Rogue. This build is basically a mono blue or mono water tempo build filled with your favorite blue waifus. I wouldn't call this deck super competitive, but I think it is a lot of fun to play, especially against players who are new or have brewed their own new decks. I think it's a lot more fair and fun other than just like stomping them out in turn 2 with like a Pricia deck or something like that. This is a deck that I like to play against new players or people that I am teaching. It's a pretty simple deck, and it's actually a lot of fun to play, and you know, a lot of the really gorgeous artwork here, you know, does a lot to bring new players in. With that said, I will be going over a way to, you know, kind of like juice up the deck at the end to make it a little bit more competitive, probably put it more in line with the, you know, water and probably darkness style decks that you are used to seeing. So let's go over the ruler first. So the ruler is Charlotte, Determined Girl, and Charlotte, the Sage, or the Mage of Sacred Spirit, not Sage. On the ruler side, she's pretty good. She has a judgment of 1 blue and 1 of any. She has Energize, and she can pay 1 blue and discard a card and rest target Resonator. That's pretty good at stopping some, you know, a lot of the aggression you see these days, though. A lot of it is J-Ruler based, because you see Pricia out there a lot. On the other side, we have a 400 1200 that cannot be attacked, which is pretty cool, which means she can block without the fear of being, you know, smashed in later. And when she enters the field, you can draw X cards, where X is 5 minus the number of cards in your hand. So you can basically draw up to 5. Like, so you have 5 cards in your hand. And whenever you draw a card, you get 1 life. That's a lot of card draw in the deck, so that's actually quite relevant. And you can pay a blue and 1 of any to discard a card, and you can return target Resonator to its owner's hand. There's a lot of bounce in this deck. That return a Resonator to its owner's hand, I'm going to shorthand that as bounce. And there's a lot of that type of effect in this deck, which is why I called it a tempo deck. What that means is basically I'll be building board presence while attempting to remove my opponent's board presence. It's kind of like a mid-range style tempo deck. Once again, I think it's a lot of fun, and let's go over some of the cards. Since this is a mono blue deck, I do have a full gambit of water magic stones, all 10. All full art, good old Alice here, just to maximize on our waifus. Alright, so I run a full playset of water wizards. I think this card's actually really, really good, and perhaps a little bit underrated, maybe not in the current meta, but I still like it quite a bit. So she is a 200-200 for 1 water will. You can rest her to produce a water will. You can spend this will only to play chants. And then whenever you play a water chant, you can look at the top card of your deck, then you can put it on the top or bottom of the deck. And there are a pretty good number of chants in the deck. It's mostly Resonator focused, but they are all water chants. And when we do spice up the deck at the end with some maybe like alternate options, they will also be water chants. So that actually goes well with this. Alright, so next up we have Undone, the Spirit of Water, and I think this is actually a pretty good tempo card. She's a 400-400 for 2 will, you know, 1 of any, and 1 water. And when you play her, when this card enters your field, you may return target Resonator your opponent controls with total cost less than or equal to the number of water magic stones you control to its owner's hand. So obviously, they're, you know, wants to play a lot of water stones, and you can still do that while splashing in some colors. I liked, you know, the just generic, straight up mono water build. Once again, I think it's good for new players and good for teaching new players how to play, but once again, we can spice that up, add some more colors. I'll probably just only focus on adding 1 more at the end, but yeah, I think Undone's actually pretty good. Next we have Squire, the Ocean Lady. Simply, she's a 400-400 for 2 will, 1 of any, and 1 blue, and when she enters the field, you get a draw card. She's basically just a good card to, you know, clutter up the field while still keeping your hand full, and the 400-400 is actually pretty relevant in regards to Charlotte's Water Transformation, which we are obviously running a full playset of in the deck. Tomoe Gozen, Merciful Aqua Twin Swords, is actually one of my favorite cards in the entire deck. I think it might be one of my favorite cards in the entire game. This card's actually really, really cool, and I don't know, once again, I think it's pretty underrated. It is a fantastic tempo card. It's a 500-600 for 1 blue and 1 of any. That in itself is alright. 600-600 for 2 is the standard these days. And it has 2 awakening costs, and they're both the exact same. You can basically pay 1 water will when it enters your field to return target Resonator to its owner's hand. And you can do that again. So basically, you can pay either 2 just if you want a body, or 3 to bounce 1 dude, or 2 additional ones, so 4 total, to bounce 2 guys. There's a lot of flexibility in it, and I think it'll see a lot more play once Alice Cluster rotates out. Charlotte's Protector is one of the only 2 cards in the deck that isn't a waifu, but it is fantastic in any Charlotte deck. Basically, is a 500/500 for 2 Water Will. We don't really care about that because when this card is put into a graveyard from your hand, you get to draw a card. So basically, you can use Charlotte's ability for free. You can, pay 1, rest the dude, and pitch this from your hand to still draw a card. Basic cycles in itself, as well as, or if she's like J activated already, you can pay 2 and bounce a dude, and then pitch this guy, and you get to draw a card. So it's really, really good with Charlotte. Not much else can be said. Basically, a staple of any Charlotte deck. Next, I'm running a full playset of Valentina Puppet Monarch. This is another very underrated, very powerful card. She is a 800/800 for 2 will and 2 of any, so 4 total. 2 water will and then 2 of any. And when she comes into play, you can steal one of your opponent's Resonators for as long as she remains on the field. Very, very powerful, especially if they're playing with some big stuff. Maybe they're playing Squire or, anything else like that. Just steal it. It's pretty good. And she's like not the easiest to remove. She's an 800/800. Space-time anomaly alone does not kill her. They'd have to waste 2 of them. So yeah, great card. One that I will be sad to see rotate out in Alice. One of the few cards I will be sad to see rotate out when Alice rotates out. So for the finisher, I run a full playset of Aya, God of Water. I think this card is a fantastic finisher. You can run alternatives like Charlotte here. Charlotte is a very good card, and I think she would fit in really well in this deck. So you could either run Aya or Charlotte. I like Aya just because he's new, and just because I think it's fun to play with some new cards. Basically what he is, he's a 1000/1000 for 2 and 2 water. He has Barrier Resonator. He gains 500/500, and this card cannot be blocked as long as you control 7 or more Water Magic Stones. And he has Resonance, Water Magic Stone, draw a card. Once you hit 7 Water Magic Stones, he becomes a 1500/1500 unblockable with Barrier Resonator. And whenever you play a Water Magic Stone, you get to draw a card, which is fantastic for just gaining some life with Charlotte. He is a great card and a really good finisher. He reminds me a lot of Mephistopheles, basically a 1500/1500 for 4. That's really hard to deal with. So yeah, I like it quite a bit, and I think he's fantastic for this deck. Alright, so on to the chance you may see a theme here. I play a full playset of basically every card in the deck. Summon from Memoria is a pretty good card, but I think it might be the weakest card in the entire deck, just in terms of value and stuff you gain from it. Some of the cards I'm going to mention at the end, this might be one of the cards you replace first. Basically what it does, it costs just 1 Water Will. You can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put a card from among them into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So anyone who plays Magic might recognize this effect. It's kind of like your Ponder, kind of like your Preordained type card. It is a powerful card, but possibly more suitable for a combos style deck. I still think it's pretty good here, but it's definitely on the chopping block. I did mention this already in the video, but I do run a full playset of Charlotte's Water Transformation Magic. What Charlotte deck would be complete without a full playset of these cards? Also, basically every blue deck runs these days. It is a fantastic card. For a single Water Will, it has Quick Cast and Remnant, which means you can play it again from your graveyard. And you basically turn a Resonator into a 400/400 bear with no abilities. It's pretty good. Basically any Resonator in the deck can block a 400/400 and kill it, except for the Water Wizard, which makes this pretty good at removal. If they're attacking with something, you can just turn into a bear, block it, or you can block it, turn into a bear, whatever your order is. And yeah, not much else to say. You've probably seen this in countless other decks already. And last but not least, we have the Innocuous Set Free. I am surprised that this card does not see a whole lot of play. Well, maybe I'm not so surprised. It's not a super aggressive card, which seems to be the most popular thing in Force of Will these days. Basically what it is a chant with Quick Cast, or chant instant. It costs 3 Water Will, and then 2 Water Will to awaken. And what it says is you can put target Resonator on top of its owner's main deck, and you can put a second Resonator on top of the deck if this card was awakened. So that basically kills 2 of your opponent's draw steps. And if you have them at a really good tempo pace where you're bouncing their dudes back to their hand, and say they play maybe their 9-tailed fox deck, that would probably be the best case scenario, and they play a Chimera, you just put on top of their deck. Put the Chimera and something else on top of their deck, like 2 Chimeras or something. It sets them back so far, and doing that to a Gwyber or anything like that, I think is really, really good, especially if they don't already have answers in their hand. I think this is pretty underrated, like a lot of the other cards I said. I know I say that a lot, but this is a pretty good one, and that feeling when your opponent just has to draw 2 crappy Resonators for the next 2 turns is priceless. And since this is just a kind of fun casual deck, I don't have a sideboard for it, but what I do have are some suggestions that you can use to, you know, spice up the deck. So first of all, you can add in darkness. Basically, just add in a bunch of dual darkness stones that still count as water stones, so you still get your value from Undone and Aya. These are basically your dual water stones that are worth running. And then you can also add in some pretty powerful darkness/water spells like Space-Time Anomaly. This, once again, card that's very, very powerful and seen everywhere. This would go pretty well in spicing up your deck. You can also add in stuff like Artemis the God's Bow. You can add in stuff like Black Moonbeam and maybe even Scorn of Dark Alice and other discard stuff. You can change the deck many number of ways, but I like how it plays right now. I think the best thing to do if you're going to spice it up is just to add some darkness stones and maybe add Space-Time Anomaly and Black Moonbeam to help deal with all the Pricias out there. Alright, so there you guys have it. That was my Charlotte's mono blue water tempo waifu type deck. I like it quite a bit, other than like the fantastic art and all the cards, which is a good reason to play the deck. It also is pretty fun and fairly powerful in regards to, like, you know, like casual rogue type decks. I can't see this like top 8ing any AGPs anytime soon, but you can spice it up to make it a little more competitive. With all that said, I did mention this before as well. I think it is a very good beginner and casual type deck. A lot of the cards in here are not very expensive at all. If you just bought the just regular non-full art versions of all the stuff, I think it wouldn't cost you very much at all to make, especially if you just want something fun to play with your friends. Also, I finally managed to pick up a full art Gil al-Hamat, so the next strategy video is going to be a Gil al-Hamat strategy video. But I kind of want to do something more different, more roguish, and maybe less mainstream, probably some mid-range style deck, and I have 2 ideas for that. I want to either make a Dragon/Dragonoid base deck. I love these cards, and I think I could make something pretty cool and fairly unique with it. Or I could make an Angel, like Angels and Demons style deck, which I think is a little bit more prevalent these days, but I think either one could work very well. Let me know what you guys would rather see, you know, dragons or angels and demons. I think either way could be pretty cool, but yeah, just let me know in the comment down below, perhaps. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope to see you next time. Have a good one all, and I will see you later.